Okay, anyone else?
Yes, Ramana, this is Steve Stacy in Miami, Florida.
Okay, Steve.
And when you were talking about the cessation of desire this morning, I wondered why, if being is omnipresent and prior to everything, why is it important that desire cease?
Well, very simply, because desire keeps you in a state of disturbance. It's like agitating water. If you had, for example, a small pond or pool of placid, unmoving water, and you peered into it, you could see your reflection. Could you not?
Yes.
But if you put your hand into it and begin to stir it, agitate it, would you be able to see your reflection in it?
No.
Well, likewise, desire agitates consciousness. And consciousness agitated by desire cannot reflect the pure awareness of the self that we are, and we tend to identify with the objects of desire rather than the prior awareness itself. And it's when we identify with the objects of desire that we continue to maintain an interest in them, and this maintaining of an interest in them keeps us agitated until they eventually are obtained. And the moment that a desire is obtained, that usually is not enough. Have you ever noticed that once you have a desire and it's attained, what usually happens?
The desire returns at some point.
Well, desire in the form of the wish for something else.
Yes.
And so now you're back into the threshold of desire, wishing for something else, and stirring, you see, consciousness for wishing to have this something else obtained, thereby never actually coming into the quietude of pure awareness, which is the true nature of the self that we are. The truth is that there is no fulfillment or contentment or happiness from anything in the world. None whatsoever. In no relationship, in no position, not in money, food, or sex. What we think is happiness from the world is nothing more than the moment when the object attained so the object desired has been attained, and the mind stops. And when the mind stops, we then partake of the joy, the happiness, the contentment that is our own nature as it is momentarily allowed to rise to the surface of being where we can partake of it. And then we incorrectly assume that the joy came from the object attained, or from the removal of the undesired object. And that is not the case. Okay, Steve?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, thank you for the question.
Ramana?
Okay?
Yeah, this is Joseph with a follow-up question on desire.
Joseph asked to read it.
Okay, Joseph?
Is there a desire or an urge that does come from self, from higher awareness to express itself, or for higher awareness to express in this reality? And if so, how do we determine the difference between body-mind desire as opposed to this infinite desire to come out and love and express?
Okay, that's a pretty good question. I'm sure from some of you when say, well, that's a good question. First of all, let me say that as far as what we would normally call desire, the self, which is our own higher nature and pure being, has no desire. It has no need because it always already is the all and everything. It is the essence of totality, of the totality of being. So, to it, or for it, or from it, there is no desire. However, I might say that there is a natural impulse that you could say that seems to send off a vibration for consciousness to move to a higher perspective. Now, how is that manifest? Or how is that so? You will have to come back into the awareness, the pure self itself, for that to reveal itself to you. But you will have to perhaps take my word for it, or the word of sages and saints who have had it revealed to them, that there is this impulse for consciousness to move to a higher order, or to express itself to an ever higher perspective. Now this urge, this impulse, I might say, to move to a higher order, or be moved to a higher order, is expressive in the ego or body-mind as the desire to know God. You might say it's God having the urge to re-identify himself, herself, itself with itself. While we are identified with the body-mind, we are actually, in fact, motivated by the meditation of a separate self-identity. In other words, identification with the body-mind is itself the meditation of a separate self-identity. And while this meditation of a separate self-identity is occurring, the impulse to move to a higher perspective that is occurring of consciousness in itself is appropriated, or maybe the proper word would be misappropriated, by the ego, and then comes into manifestation in the form of desire. And this desire is the impulse for more, better, and different experiences, events, and happenings in the form of persons, places, and things to hopefully give us a sense of peace and contentment and completion, since while we are identified with the body-mind and meditating a separate self-identity, we are never experiencing enough. So in this not experiencing enough, we want more. And when more is not enough, we want different. When different is not enough, we want, I should say, when more is not enough, we want better. And when better is not enough, we want different. And when different is not enough, we want more of that which is different. And then we continue the cycle, repeating the cycle. Has anyone ever seen it?
Quite a bit.
So the cycle is ever occurring. And you can say that this is, you might say, somewhat subtly motivated by the impulse of consciousness to return from its meditation of a separate self-identity and back into a higher order of expression as the universal awareness of the self that we all are. Does that do it for you, Joseph?
Beautiful. Thank you very much.
Okay. Thank you for your question.
I would say in baseball parlance, you just drove it out of the park. Thank you very much.
In baseball language, you drove it out of the park.
Okay.